Today, I'm joined by Chuks. Is the owner and managing director of Kent Housing UK, which is a leading quality accommodation provider in Kent. So welcome, Chuks.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Really appreciate you having me on the show. And I hope the knowledge I share will be able to impact the community. And thanks for having me on. Really appreciate.
Right, you're very welcome, and I'm sure what you've got to share will be really helpful to loads of other people. So let's just start off with telling us a little bit about Kent Housing UK. Tell us a bit more about that, Chuks.
So Kent Housing started about 10 years ago. It started in a little town called the Medway Towns in Kent. The idea of Kent Housing was to provide accommodation for housing associations, local authorities in the temporary accommodation market. And we started the business probably about 10 years ago. And we now currently provide accommodation for construction companies coming to Kent, film companies coming to Kent. So we're also doing a bit of the Airbnb market as well. And also we do a lot of the budget style accommodation where the Amazon comes to town, they bring 60 men and say, we don't want to keep them in the Premier Inn. We want to find accommodation for them for 6 months. So they come to the likes of Kent Housing to provide accommodation. So we class ourselves as an accommodation, someone who provides solution for accommodation, anyone who's looking for accommodation. So if you're looking for the top end accommodation, the bottom end, the middle end, we can provide that solution for you. So it's Kent Housing they come to.
Okay, great. Look, thank you for explaining that. So. And look, if I understand it correctly, there's two sides of it. You've got people that want accommodation, but then also, you've got people that own the properties.
That's right.
They will come to you as for you to manage.
As investors.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So it's those two different types of.
Yes. So the investors. So we have investors that come to us with a portfolio, and they said, "Hey, we Kent Housing. Here's my portfolio. Can you help me manage it?" And what we do, we provide what you call guaranteed rent. So when they bring the portfolio to us, we give them the guaranteed rent thing, which a lot of estate agents don't do that. So that's kind of our niche. Yeah. Our niche is that we provide you with guaranteed rent. So tenant or no tenant, the investors gets paid. Unlike an agent, when the tenant leaves, there's no rent. Yeah. So we have that guaranteed rent. So it's the guaranteed rent is our niche. That's the niche for us in the market, providing landlords with guaranteed rents. Yeah.
Okay, great. Sounds like a great deal. Okay. So look, so you mentioned you started it about
10 years ago.
Years ago.
Yes.
So why did you decide to start the business? And like, well, firstly, why did you decide to be a business owner, Chuks? Why?
I think for me, one of the main reasons is that I've always been an entrepreneur. So I've always found gaps in markets, and when I find there's a gap in the market, I get onto it, and the gap in the market as of 10 years ago was during the days of when the London property market, where a lot of the Russians, the oligarchies, they were called as of then, were buying properties left, right, and center. The London property market was extremely expensive. So a lot of local authorities could not house clients in the London area, and they were seriously struggling. So we were probably the first. I mean, I would say we were probably the first of the first in the market to offer the solution to a lot of London local authorities to, why don't you bring people to Kent? We can house them. Kent is only 45 minutes into London, why take them to Birmingham or to Manchester when we can do it in Kent, which is 45 minutes away? So that was the biggest gap in the market for us at the time. And I think it took a while for us to convince them. But I think once we convinced them and they thought, wow, why don't we make that happen? And interesting enough, what has happened now is that the government has actually put a law in place now. If you go to the local authorities for housing, if they can find you a house within 45 minutes of you're of London, yeah, you have to go.
Okay.
So that's the gap. That's where we spotted the gap, and we targeted the gap, and we made that work. You know,
Brilliant.
yeah. And likewise, when obviously when we go into the market, we started the market, and loads of other people joined the market. Then obviously there was more competition. Then the Airbnb market opened up for us, and we thought we need to spread our wings somewhere else because this market is getting saturated.
Mhm.
So when the Airbnb market opened up, we were probably the first in Kent. We had the largest portfolio of Airbnb stock in Kent, and we started in that market. So to round it off, it's just that we find gaps in markets, and we say, how can we fill those gaps? That's the way we've worked, really.
And
Yeah.
what do you like about being a business owner, Chuks?
It's the challenge. I love the idea of a challenge. There's got to be a challenge for me that when I wake up every day, I'm thinking, wow, how am I going to close this gap?
Yeah.
I've got to have butterflies in my stomach. I'm thinking, wow, I have to be on the edge. For me, I've got to be on the edge. And I think that's what a business does for me, is how am I going to close this gap? What am I going to do to win this deal? So I've got to be on the edge to get that motivation. So that's for me, that's what motivates me as a business owner. And also making a difference as well, making a difference for people. I mean, I don't know if you know, I'm probably one of the biggest contributor for I do a lot of charity in our local community. Every month we feed probably about 25,000. We feed probably 25,000 people through our food banks. And that for me is inspiration, knowing that we have to feed people. We've got to find people homes. We do a lot of street homeless. We help a lot of people on the street as well. So for us, for me, that's the inspiration. That's what gets me out of bed, and knowing that we've got to make this work. Yeah.
Having that. Look, and I think with any business, it's about the thing that makes it work is having a purpose, having a why.
Most definitely.
You've just described what your why is there, because
Most
it's those things that push us.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I mean, and to add to that, like I said, I mean, I have got a big boxing foundation in I've got a big boxing foundation in Nigeria, and that foundation pretty much provides boxing gloves for kids in challenge all over Africa, in challenge communities. I mean, last year we set a goal to achieve 10,000 gloves to help kids, to inspire them through sports in communities across Africa. And we've broken that goal. And we've got a new goal this year. We're raising 1 million gloves to help kids across Africa in challenge communities through sports, teaching them discipline, motivation, the ability to dream, letting them know that impossible does not exist. So for us, that's another drive. That's my why. That's why I wake up wanting to strive for the best and achieve the best to help other people, really.
Yeah, and that's sort of so important. So, look, we've talked a little bit about challenges there. What would you say the biggest challenge that you've faced being a business owner?
I think the biggest challenge that I've faced is the market, the market wave. I mean, like I said, when we started our business, we were the first. Every other person was. I mean, we had the market. We had the largest market share. But after a period of time, I mean, a big pension fund came into the market, and they came with a lot of money, and they kicked. I mean, a lot of the smaller guys went out of business. And they took a lot of our market share, but we now decided, what next can we do? That's when we found the gap in the Airbnb market, and we said, let's move on to that market. So we moved on to that market and became one of the leading provider of service departments in the Kent area. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges we ever faced in the business. And also another challenge is about pricing. I mean, when we started, we always had our price. We always put a price on feelings. We thought, okay, we'll earn £300 per property doesn't really matter. That's what we think we should earn. But when we looked at the math, I mean, for over 4 to 5 years, we realized this was not stacking up, you know. And the fear of going to say we're going to change our prices was like, oh no, our clients will go, they won't stay, they, you know, they would move. But I think when we stood our grounds and said, you know what, we have, for us to survive, we've got to change this pricing. I mean, it took a lot because I mean, I was worried, you know, to go change the prices with every client. But when we went to our clients to change the prices, they didn't hesitate. They stayed. They stayed, and that was a big game changer for us. We realized that you don't have to grow so big in property. You can still, you know, you can remain, you can have a quantifiable source, but your price, if you have your price right, yeah, you're good. You're good.
No, this you know, making some notes there about, because there was some great stuff that you mentioned. And I wanted to highlight, you know, some of that you said there. You know, the first thing was that you mentioned about, you know, the market is constantly evolving. Okay, the environment is
Very much,
evolving and
very much so.
And as business owners, we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of what's happening, what's going on, so that which then, you know, so it's keeping that awareness of what's happening in our industry and the economy, which then allows us to be adaptable, which was the
Yes.
other thing that came out from what you sort of said there. You said, right, okay, we're experiencing this challenge, right? We need to be adaptable. We need to, where's the next opportunity? Where's the next gap in the market? So there was that adaptability.
Yes.
I think is also important for business.
Totally. And just to add to that,
yeah, please do.
one of the things you say, I mean, but this is a small factor. I mean, pets, with regards to a lot of our competitors don't take pets in their houses, you know, and a lot of our clients come to us and say, hey, Chuck, so you're going to help us? We got a pet. Can you help us put a pet? And I say, yes, we'll take the pets in.
Yeah.
You know, we'll take the pets in. You know, yes, okay, there may be a few damages, but at least we're the only company in the market within our space that takes pets in our properties. So it's just finding that little gap for us, that little small gap, flexibility. Yeah.
Which you know, which brings on another thing and actually links to what you were sort of saying just now, because you mentioned about pricing. And the key thing with pricing, as you mentioned, initially you went with, you know, what you thought was right. But actually, when we're pricing our product services, we need to base it on research.
Very much so.
No, understanding our market, what our competitors are offering, what you get in return for that.
Very much so.
Which you subsequently did.
Very much so.
And then that other point that you mentioned about your point of difference, you know, pricing isn't all about being the cheapest.
No.
It's about making sure, it's about value.
Yes.
Make sure that you get the right value for the clients that you're looking to attract, and that you're differentiating yourself from your competition in some way, shape, or form, which you mentioned there about pets for you. That's one of your differentiations. So there were some really good points that came out of that, Chuck. So thank you for sort of running through that. So what would you say the main challenge is at the moment or what do you see as being the main challenge coming up in the future for you know, your business, your industry?
The main challenge that I tend to find is that for us as a business, it's is obviously relax. I mean, I know this may sound odd, but it's like relaxing on your laurels. I mean, I had a meeting last week with my business manager, and we sat down, and my project manager, and we sat down, and when it dawned on me that we realized that just one client has pretty much 90% of our portfolio.
Wow.
You know, and for us, we looked at that, and if you look at that, that's a threat, that's a weakness for us, you know, because if this one client goes, what happens? You know, And we looked at it that, and we've just been comfortable and just saying, let's service that client. They're giving us the business. Let's feed them. Let's feed them. But what we need to realize is that we cannot depend on one client. We need to still go out and get more clients. So we're spread around. We spread our portfolio around. And like you said, you can't carve your eggs all in one basket.
Yeah.
So for us, that's one of the biggest challenges for us now. We have to look at, we have to go out as a business and think, who else can we get on board, and how can we spread our risk in various places, rather than with just one source. So for us, that
again, a key thing that you've highlighted there is be aware of where the business is coming from. You've highlighted a potential sort of risk in your business, and look, it sounds so you're taking actions to it sounds like you're really focused on that particular issue. Okay.
Massively.
How do we make sure that we continue to service that client? Because we obviously don't want to lose them. We want to maintain them. But at the same time, how do we reduce our exposure to that client? So if you could wave a magic wand and solve that challenge, what would it be? What would it look like?
What it would look like will be probably having, say, 6 or 7 of this particular type of clients, and the portfolio is spread amongst them. So not one person has 90%. So they all say maybe 5 of these clients, but each one has 20%. And they all have an equal portfolio share. So I think for us, that will probably be the ideal strategy for us to look at, where all the clients have an equal share. Maybe some, your good clients will probably have more, but they all have an equal share of our portfolio, and we can hedge our portfolio against any upset in the future, really.
Okay. Sounds sensible. Yeah, I get that. Okay, and what's been your biggest learning since you've been in business, Chuks?
My biggest learning since I've been in business, I love that question, actually. I think my biggest learning is be patient. Be consistent. And I'll tell you why I think that's my biggest learning. I still get nerves still, but it's like, we just acquired a portfolio in January, and one of the things that I had, in December. You don't acquire a portfolio in December because your January is going to be a quiet month, and you're taking a big chance there, And I think for us is that, for me, it was, how are we going to get this going? It's January. January is the most quiet month. What's going to happen? You start getting this thought, have I made the right decision? Have I done this? Oh, did I jump too quick? But what I realized that what you need to do is you got to have an insane belief. A belief that, what, I've made this decision, I'll stick by it. It may be quiet, but we'll get through it. And one of the things that I found was, even in the month of January, the whole portfolio is the portfolio that we got in the December is all full now, So that fear I had in November, December, thinking it's the wrong month, but because I stuck with it and I believe that, it's going to happen, led us through to, so it was just an imaginary fear that I had to deal with. So what I always tell people is that you've got to stick with it. There are going to be moments that you will panic. There's going to be moments that you will think, damn, have I made the right decision? But you've got to have that insane belief that, it's going to happen. And they call it,
be patient, be consistent, believe.
Be consistent. Be patient, be consistent.
And you mentioned there about fear as well. I always say that, fear stands for false expectations appearing real.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that they are real. It just means that, they're false expectations that appear real.
Yes.
And that can stop us from doing things. So
yes,
a great bit of advice there, Chuck. So Look, Chucks, there's one question that I love to ask all the people that you know are kind enough to join me on this discussion, and that question is, what is the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you? So if you could go back and speak to yourself when you were 18, what would you say to yourself?
What I would say to myself is find something that inspires you.
Mm.
Find something that you've got a desire for.
Mm.
Pursue it with all intensity. Never give up, and you will get the result in the end.
I'm making a note of it because I really like that. So find
Yeah.
something that inspires you. Find something that you really desire.
Mm.
Pursue it with intensity.
Yes.
Never give up,
Mm.
and you'll achieve it.
Yes. That's the best advice I would give my 18-year-old self.
Like that. That's brilliant. Thank you very much for
No problem.
sharing that. Well, look, Chucks, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak.
You're welcome.
Today and sharing more about your business and also your journey as well. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Simon. I really appreciate you and giving me some time to speak and to share knowledge on your platform. Really appreciate you, and thank you so much for today. Appreciate that. Thank you. Cheers.